It's unreal, and and the reason I say that is because also you have what I was talking with Stevie. I played a gig on Friday night at where the fuck was it? At Lock Bar again, actually. Shouts out Alice Restaurant. Shouts out Alex Smith.
Globe.
Sponsor Globe Group sponsors, baby. This episode is brought to you by Atlas Restaurant Groups. Don't wear a fucking hat.
Flat Earther Group. I'm a flat earther, honestly.
So
there's a lot of compelling evidence.
I was playing there, and Stevie is a lifelong Redskins fan. And the big news of the week this week is that the Redskins are officially changing their name to. Do you know what the name they're changing it to is?
I don't even think they have a name picked out yet. They're just like very quick to be like, "Hey guys, don't worry, we're changing it."
Yeah,
Even though you guys have made a stink about this for the last 10 years. We're gonna do it now.
They're finally doing it, yeah.
But again, it's another one of those situations where we've had, for instance, okay, I will say this, dude. The Washington Redskins, probably the least, in my opinion, I'm not Native American, but I am a white guy, and I can speak to how white people look at it because I'm a white guy, and I can speak to our perspective on it, which is if you're telling me that it's some racist thing, I can tell you that as a white guy, I've never thought of it as a racist thing.
No,
and most white people have never thought of it as a racist thing.
If anything, I get the Braves. I get the old Braves logo where it's kind of like the cartoony English guy.
They literally also called them the Braves. Like they're obviously revering.
I get
it, but it's also the logo the logo is like the one of the Native American dude on the side. It's like a very like cartoonish. It could be stereotypical.
Are you thinking of the Cleveland Indians by chance?
Maybe I don't.
I think you're thinking of the Cleveland Indians.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking of the Indians
because that's what I was. It's the guy with the smiling face.
Yeah.
That's the
like
Cleveland Indians.
That is on the if like we're going after Aunt Jemima, like obviously we're going after that.
Yeah.
But for the Redskins logo is fucking dope. Like it looks like a fucking like war torn fucking like battle
like
guy.
A dope ass
like
fucking dude.
He looks badass. And just because it is like a football team and like I don't know, it's not like because it has been a thing of like, okay, these guys are fucking badass. They go out on the field, they smack people around. They're the Redskins. I've never thought of that as like a derogatory thing.
Never.
Neither have I, but I think that's also because. So I don't care what I think. If other people think it's offensive, there are other ways to change the name and keep the same branding, look, tone, feel.
Oh, and I totally understand that.
And if it makes you feel better, I don't care if they don't change it.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm not even against the name change. I'm not against any of the shit being taken place. I just think it's very silly that like they could have done this over the last 10 years, but now it's like the PR thing.
Well, it's been a topic of conversation.
The reaction thing
forever.
is kind of translucent. It's like, you're just changing it now because it's to save your own ass.
Yeah, because they've had multiple times. Like this has been
you don't actually
a
care.
National conversation a couple times within the last 5 years.
God,
and they've had multiple
times.
They've had multiple times to be like, all right, now it is the turning point. But like they waited for a time where it's like they weren't being called out for it to do it.
Yeah,
that's the thing that like bugs me.
And if we're being objective about certain team names,
they just waited until there was a time they could do it where they weren't called out. Like,
yeah.
Just because like everything that's going on right now, like it is very far away from like Native American issues. Like they obviously couldn't have done it when the fucking pipelines are being brought through. But like, I don't know. And honestly, I don't really care because like I'm not a Redskins fan. I have no like
the
money
Redskins
in the game.
Are gonna suck
like,
regardless of what you call them.
We got the best part of them, RG3 on the fucking.
Yeah. The Redskins are going to suck regardless. The fact is, if you look at team names objectively, I've always thought that the term American Indian would be something that would legitimately piss me off if I was a Native American. Because we literally went to a country and we were like, well, you look like Indians, but you live here. You're an American Indian.
Yeah.
And then you're calling people American Indians, and then you have a team called the Cleveland Indians, and then your logo is a cartoon fucking Indian guy with the big wide-ass cheeks and the tooth with the fucking one gold one and the fucking feather hat, and it's like,
I think you added the gold thing in there.
I might have.
I don't think
that's because I'm racist.
I don't think Native Americans.
And that's not even like a Native American stereotype.
Historically had gold teeth.
I don't fucking know, dude. Regardless, the racist logo that I draw every night before I go to bed is the gold tooth Cleveland Indian thing. And that to me is something that why aren't we... It's just weird to me that you look at a team like the Redskins and it's the difference between revering a culture versus mocking a culture. And I brought this up a lot. I brought this up on a previous podcast about how there are plenty and plenty of teams that are named after Greek and Roman culture. They're all over. You have the USC Trojans, you have the Michigan State Spartans. You have so many teams that are modeled after that kind of culture. But the difference is that my community doesn't, and you could do things that would be offensive to the culture. You could.
Yeah.
But to simply have the logo of a Greek guy in a fucking Spartan helmet or something like that, that's not offensive. Actually, that's kind of revering to the thing. Even when they say Greek life, fraternities and things like that, they say, oh, Greek life, we're all Greek and stuff like that. It's like, no, you're fucking not. But you all have fraternities that are after our alphabet and things like that, and you honor it, and you all have to learn our alphabet to be a part of that fraternity or sorority. And it's like, that's cool. That's the difference. You look at a team like the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, where the fucking logo is a fucking fighting leprechaun.
Yeah.
That you could, if you wanted to, which is the game that we play in society nowadays, which is the woke game, which is that we're gonna find stuff that nobody really cared about that much and then make it a big fucking deal. If you wanted to, there's a billion things you could point out that are offensive about certain things like that. Mm-hmm. You look at the Washington Redskins, you could point out that maybe, but there's
just so many things they could have done. Like, they could have literally, when they were called out the first time for the name change, they could have been like, hey, maybe we'll just start investing or have like a branch of the Redskins start helping like native tribes and shit throughout America.
Yeah.
They could do outreach. There's a number of things they could have done. All the name change does is kind of not give any sort of Native American like pride. Like if they were just like, oh shit, there's a team named after fucking me. Oh, I'm gonna follow them. I'm gonna fucking see what they're all about.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It takes that away. Because most of the time, like a team name is based off something like around the city, or like the Raven. I'm not sure the Raven is like particularly known for being in Baltimore, but Edgar Allan Poe
or you had the Baltimore Colts because of horse racing.
Yeah, exactly. So like
the Boston,
the New
there's
England something
Patriots
that you can always be like, oh fuck, that's like my home team. That's like what we're doing. But it just gives them less of an option to fucking have a sports team.
Well, I think the solution honestly is first of all, the biggest tragedy I think as it comes to the Native American community is that they were decimated.
And I might have sounded like a fucking idiot.
No, you don't. I don't think you sounded like an idiot.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think you were dead the fuck on, dude. If you look at the original,
I mean, it's the same thing as like representation in like movies or fucking superhero movies or some bullshit. It's like. And I understand that. Like, and we've never had a deficit of that in white people, but like, I'm sure fucking little black kids flipped out at Miles Morales in the animated Spider-Man movie.
Absolutely.
And I fucking love that movie. That movie's fucking dope. It didn't matter that, and also it's like being true to the character that he was a fucking black kid. Mm-hmm. Like, none of that even matters to me. It's a good ass story. It's a good ass movie.
Yes.
But I'm sure that fucking black kids were like, psyched. They're like, dude, we have our own fucking Spider-Man now.
Yeah.
And obviously everyone was psyched about Black Panther and shit, but like, it's like, I don't know. It doesn't get the same respect in that realm. Like, people aren't critical of movies because, oh, you're having a fucking Irish American play an Italian American. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Blah, blah, blah. Or like, whatever. Like, I mean, and we've come a long way from fucking white dudes playing Genghis Khan and shit.
Yeah.
And, you know, things change, but, like, there's still that aspect of representation now that is such an issue that we're just going to be losing with that name change.
Well, you're dead the fuck on, dude. I mean, I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody in the situation. And again, the reason I'm doing this is because I truly do not feel like it is the Native American population that is pushing this agenda. I truly, again, feel it's the
I think every time they've been called out for it before, even, like, Native American people, they've asked, like, we have our Native American consultant on the line, and well, how do you feel about the Redskins? And they're like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
It's the fucking white people going in and telling them that, oh, you should be offended by this. This is something that you're supposed. It's so in that aspect, I don't care, dude. But you also do, like you said, representation. That's an important thing. Like, Native American culture, like I said before, was a decimated culture.
As long as it's not being like derogatory or like whatever, like problematic. Like, I don't know.
I feel like the history that we teach in this country is very. I don't know what the word is for it. I'm off my Jimmy the Thesaurus game this evening, but the history that we teach in this nation is very kind of counterproductive to what we're trying to do. The reality is that we fought the Native Americans for hundreds of years, and they killed the fuck out of us without having the guns we had. They got horses and shit like that, and they fucking stole the guns from us and fought us back with their own guns. And we had the Sioux Wars and the Mexican Wars with the natives that were living down south in the Mexico and stuff like that. And like were a powerful culture, and they were existing in their own empires here, conquering other tribes and doing things the same way every other fucking place. If you go to Genghis Khan, he was in fucking Mongolia, he took over all of China. You had Alexander the Great in Greece, it took over Asia Minor and Europe and the Romans and shit like that. That's human nature. You have the Native Americans who were this powerful, reverent culture of tribes and different empires, the Sioux, the Iroquois, the Aztecs, the Mayans, and then you tell them that, like, to me, it seems like we're going to erase. And I know what I sound like right now. I think that the solution should have been, if we're going to change the name from Redskins because maybe you could say that the term Redskins is offensive, which to me is another thing that I feel like we just decided recently, because there are songs from the 70s where people say the word Redskins, and there are high schools that are Native American high schools that call their team the Redskins. That wasn't something that struck me or a lot of the Native American community as a offensive term. But if you're going to change the term, why are we also going to take away the culture from that team? Why wouldn't we, like the Atlanta...
We shouldn't take the culture away.
The Atlanta Braves is a perfect example. That is named after a specific tribe, and they have the arrowhead, and they do things that revere the culture. So if you want to say, okay, the term Redskins is offensive, that's fine. Change the name, but don't change the branding.
Keep the branding and bring someone in who actually knows what it's like to be Native American to advise and consult on the branding.
Exactly.
So change the name. If it's upsetting people who are of that culture, then change the name, but bring in don't let a bunch of white guys who do branding like me, like bring in someone who actually knows what they're talking about to tell you what would make them feel more, to be more like, you know, holding it up as like a good thing, not as like a caricature.
The term,
which is I think what it is right now.
Yes, absolutely. The term that I was looking for earlier is paternalistic. The white people that I'm complaining about right now, in my opinion, are the true racists. That they have this I
understand what you're saying.
I totally 100% stand by this. The people that think that it's their job to decide for other groups of people what they should find offensive, what they shouldn't find offensive, how they should feel about this, how they should feel, and what they should do about this, and those are the people that, to me, they're treating groups of people the same way that like the fucking animal rescue chicks treat animals.
Sarah McLachlan.
Yes, they treat them like it's this group of people that aren't capable of making their own decisions and putting out their own message. And that, to me, is true racism, because you're looking at this group of people and saying, "Oh, we're gonna handle this for you. You don't like the name Redskins. You don't like it. That's offensive. No, we're gonna change that. Me, Dan Snyder, a fucking whatever I am." You know, I'm going to decide for you guys,
Yeah.
Fuck you, dude.
I think also, not to like backtrack too much, but so we're talking about how there's a lot of Irish, like Eric and I are Irish and German. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of stereotypical Irish things and stuff like that don't offend me, because I'm like, oh, I see it, and I'm like, well, I don't care. But it's not to be like the woke police. But we've never been oppressed before. So I think that's why it doesn't bother us.
I mean,
there are necessarily people know if the Irish have been oppressed, bro.
The Irish essentially were like, I don't know,
but I feel like you can't compare the Irish thing or any other whatever.
Yeah, it's not as bad, I guess.
It's not comparable. But so if there's stuff that's offending a group of people, then let them change it. But also, like we said, bring someone in who is part of that culture to help with the renaming or the rebranding of it.
It's also like, it's a weird thing because like we can find humor in the stereotypes in media on Irish or German people, just because, I don't know. It's also a thing with like the American culture is most Americans don't have any connection to their actual heritage, which is like, it doesn't really matter, because it's like, because our heritage is whatever our family had or wherever growing up in America or wherever, I forget where I was going with that.
There are people that have a connection to their heritage. I mean, and it is true. Most white people in this country a lot of the white people I meet, you talk to your average white guy, and this is something that I've never really related to as well, because I did grow up in a very strong cultural background. That like I said, I'm a quarter Italian, but mostly I was raised Greek. My name is Demetrius. I went to Greek Orthodox Church. I spoke Greek with my grandparents to a certain degree. I can understand when they talk, and like that was our culture. And we would always sit down, and my grandfather would tell us stories, Greek mythology, and things like that. It was a very strong part of my culture, and it was something that I identified with strongly. Most white people, like Ancestry.com is such a big hit because most white people don't know what the fuck they are or where they come from, and you're just white. And that's kind of the same way it is for black people in this country, which is black people in this country, they were robbed of their culture, which is true. I mean, they were taken away from where they were from. And again, there's a lot of historical context that you have to put into that. I think we might be out of champ, but we got champagne and beers. Yeah, take a highlight.
I'll drink the champagne of beers.
Yeah. Throw me one of those too.
Thank you.
And so black culture in this country is it's black American culture. I mean, when Africans come over here, black people they don't really necessarily have like a cultural connection to a guy who grew up in Kenya or something like that. Like, dude, your family has been here for 400 years. You've been an American. Like, that's something that Dark Mark said to me that I'll never forget when he was on the podcast, and he was saying black people are truly the original Americans, like besides the natives that lived here. But like, you talk to an average black guy, his family has been here for centuries longer than my family's been here. My grandfather got here in the fucking 50s, dude. My parents, they weren't a part of all the shit that happened before that and everything. Like, we just got here, as sponge divers or whatever the fuck we were doing. And we just got here, and I'm like the second generation. My mom was born here like 3 years after they arrived in America, and then they had me. So like, I don't necessarily have a cultural connection to anything pre-1940 in this country.